Even during a bye week, the Baltimore Ravens find a way to stay in the headlines, and not in the way fans were hoping for. A team that started the season with Super Bowl expectations now finds itself sitting at Uma Vitoria and Cinco de Rodas, and with every passing day, the situation gets weirder, messier, and more frustrating. The latest twist? The Ravens have abruptly parted ways with safety Chauncey C.J. Gardner Johnson after just 1 week. 1 week. 7 days. That's how long his stint in Baltimore lasted before the two sides mutually agreed to move on. And now, with Gardner Johnson breaking his silence, we've got more questions than answers. Look, this isn't the kind of situation that typically happens in Baltimore. This is an organization that, for years, has prided itself on stability, on culture, on keeping drama out of the building. But now, it feels like the walls are cracking, the messaging is off, and the team is stuck in a storm of self-inflicted chaos. Gardner Johnson posted a vague, heartfelt goodbye message on social media, thanking all the teams he's played for, showing love to the game, and saying he's excited to keep grinding. But what wasn't said speaks louder than the words that were. The timing of it all is bizarre. Right after the Ravens trade for another safety, Alohi Gilman, suddenly Gardner Johnson is out the door. That right there tells you something changed, and fast. According to reports, Gardner Johnson's camp believed there was a clear path to playing time when he signed. Then Baltimore makes a move for another safety, and just like that, his role disappears. You have to wonder what was said behind closed doors. Did they promise him a role, then pull the rug out from under him with the Gilman trade? Was it a miscommunication, or just a quick change of plans? Either way, it's a bad look. And this isn't an isolated incident. The Ravens have found themselves in a string of head-scratching decisions lately. Between the Marcus Williams situation, the uncertainty with Eddie Jackson, and now Gardner Johnson, it feels like this front office is scrambling, reacting instead of planning, reaching instead of building. That's not what you expect from a team that came into the year talking championship. Now, if we're being honest, Gardner Johnson has always been a bit of a wild card. Ultra-talented, passionate, emotional, sometimes to his own detriment. He's had public dust-ups with teammates and coaches in the past, and while he can be an absolute game-changer on the field, he also brings a bit of volatility. So maybe the Ravens got a taste of that energy behind the scenes and decided it wasn't worth it. Or maybe Gardner Johnson saw the writing on the wall and didn't want to sit behind Gilman or Marcus Williams. Regardless, it's another messy chapter in what's becoming a season full of them. And with the team sitting at One Vitoria and Cinco de Rodas, it's hard not to point fingers. The offensive line is a disaster. The defensive front can't get pressure. Injuries are piling up. And the coaching staff, John Harbaugh in particular, is starting to face real questions for the first time in years. 18 seasons in, Harbaugh still has that upbeat tone in pressers, always spinning things toward the positive. But at what point does the message get stale? At what point do the results outweigh the resume? Eric DeCosta, the general manager, has his share of the blame too. For all the talk about value, cap space, and smart trades, the reality is the roster just isn't good enough right now. Too many positions are thin. Too many gambles aren't paying off. Bringing in Gardner Johnson was supposed to be one of those savvy mid-season moves. Instead, it turned into another PR mess. And while the team continues to spiral, it's Lamar Jackson who, once again, is expected to put on the cape and save the day. That's been the story for years now. Ever since taking over in 2 mil e DeZoido, Jackson's been the Band-Aid over every crack in the foundation. No offensive weapons. He carries the offense. No protection. He makes magic happen with his legs. Defense underperforming. He keeps them in games. But this year, even Superman is starting to look human. You can't ask one man to save a team week after week. And yet, that's exactly what Baltimore is doing. They're asking Lamar to overcome a broken offensive line, an inconsistent run game, and now, a defense that's losing pieces and struggling to find its identity. And if Gardner Johnson was brought in to help stabilize that secondary, then this move, his quick exit, only adds to the confusion and dysfunction. The thing that's so frustrating is that this isn't supposed to be a rebuilding year. This isn't some young team learning how to win. This is a team that was built to contend right now. Derrick Henry, Roquan Smith, Marcus Williams, Marlon Humphrey, these aren't rookies. These are veterans with playoff experience. You don't trade for a player like Alohi Gilman unless you think you're close to making a run. And yet here we are, wondering whether this roster even has a pulse. Now, back to the Gardner Johnson situation. There were signs this might not work. He was liking tweets about going back to Philadelphia, dropping cryptic posts before his release, and you just got the feeling that something was off. Maybe he felt misled. Maybe he never really wanted to be in Baltimore in the first place. But that only raises more concerns. If there was a lack of clarity from the front office about his role, if there was poor communication, it speaks to deeper issues within the organization. And for a franchise that's historically been one of the most well-run in football, that's alarming. This wasn't just a player cut for underperforming. This was a player leaving after a handful of practices, after being inactive for a game, after the team made another move at his exact position. It's hard not to wonder whether Gardner Johnson saw the Gilman trade and thought, I'm not going to sit around and be a backup. Maybe he had that conversation with the staff and said, if I'm not playing, I'm out. And maybe the Ravens, not wanting any more distractions, agreed. Either way, it shows a level of instability that fans are not used to seeing from this team. And the timing couldn't be worse. The bye week is supposed to be a reset button, a time to regroup, heal, and come out swinging in the second half. Instead, the Ravens are facing a PR storm, injuries to key players, and internal tension that seems to be boiling over. They've got a long way to go, and the road ahead is brutal. If Lamar Jackson doesn't come back and immediately start winning games, this season could spiral into something unrecognizable. Coming out of the bye, the Ravens don't just need better execution. They need leadership. They need clarity. They need a front office that stops swinging and missing on roster moves. And they need to stop asking Lamar to be a miracle worker. Because right now, the only thing he's got to work with is a shaky line, a banged-up roster, and a coaching staff that seems to be out of answers. While the Gardner Johnson situation dominated headlines, it's just one part of a much larger problem in Baltimore. Because if there's one thing that's been consistent about this team through the first 6 games, it's been the poor performance of the offensive line. And for a franchise that built its identity for years on being physical, dominating in the trenches, and imposing its will, this version of the Ravens looks nothing like the old one. They're soft up front, disorganized, and completely ineffective when it matters most. And what's even more troubling is that inside the building, the tone doesn't seem to match the reality. Let's be clear. This offensive line has failed Lamar Jackson. It has failed the run game. It has failed the coaching staff. And it has failed the fans. We've seen miscommunications, missed assignments, poor technique, and worst of all, no real accountability. And yet, when you hear offensive line coach George Warhop talk about it, you'd think this group was improving every week. You'd think the problems were overblown. But anyone watching the games, or even just checking the film, knows better. The Ravens aren't just struggling in protection, they're collapsing. And no amount of coach speak is going to hide that. Warhop went out of his way to praise Daniel Falale and Andrew Voorhees, saying they're getting better every week. That's a nice sentiment. But the truth is, both players have been exposed in almost every game. Whether it's getting driven back at the point of attack, whiffing on pass protection, or just falling over mid-play, there's no world where you can watch these guys and say, yeah, this is working. The tape doesn't lie. You can't spin your way out of giving up sacks on key downs. You can't coach around a lack of toughness in short yardage situations. And you definitely can't excuse putting your franchise quarterback in danger because of repeated failures up front. But maybe the bigger issue is how this group was put together in the first place. Because if you look at the offseason decisions made by Eric DeCosta, you start to see a pattern of complacency. The guard positions were basically handed to Falale and Voorhees without real competition. The only notable addition was third-round rookie Emory Jones, who wasn't even fully healthy and had no NFL experience. No veterans. No proven starters. Just a hope and a prayer that a couple of untested guys would rise to the occasion. And that gamble has backfired in the worst way. If the Ravens were serious about competing, they should have brought in competition. Not just to push these guys, but to have a plan B when things inevitably went wrong. Because now, 6 weeks in, it's clear that Voorhees and Falale are not ready. And while Warhop might see progress in practice, the games tell a different story. They're losing battles at the line of scrimmage every week. They're getting bullied by stronger, faster, more disciplined defensive fronts. And it's not just 1 or 2 plays. It's drive after drive, game after game. The numbers are just as ugly. Ronnie Stanley, once one of the best left tackles in football, looks like a shell of his former self. Whether it's injury-related or just the wear and tear of the game, he hasn't been the same. Voorhees is ranked in the bottom tier of guards by PFF. Falale is struggling to stay on his feet, let alone hold a block. And when it comes to short yardage situations, the kind of moments where offensive line dominance is supposed to show up, the Ravens are one of the worst teams in the league. That's not just a scheme issue. That's a toughness issue. That's a preparation issue. And it falls on everyone: players, coaches, front office. It's also why fans are so frustrated. Because this didn't come out of nowhere. This was predictable. When you roll into a season with major question marks along the offensive line and no real depth behind it, you're asking for trouble. And now that trouble has arrived. The run game is inconsistent. Lamar doesn't have time to go through his progressions. And every time the team gets into a crucial third down or goal line situation, the offensive line crumbles. How are you supposed to sustain drives, control the tempo, and keep your quarterback upright when the foundation of your offense is broken? And it's not like there aren't other options. Corey Bullock showed some flashes in the preseason. He looked strong, aggressive, and capable of handling the speed of the game. But for whatever reason, the Ravens have refused to make a change. John Harbaugh said that everything is on the table when it comes to lineup adjustments. But so far, it's been all talk. If Bullock is healthy and ready, why not give him a shot? At 1 Vittoria and Cinco Derrotas, what do you have to lose? This goes beyond just a couple of bad performances. This is about a lack of urgency, a lack of adaptability. The Ravens are watching their season slip away and sticking with the same lineup, the same rotation, and the same approach that got them into this hole. That's the kind of mindset that kills seasons. That's the kind of mindset that raises serious questions about the leadership at the top. And let's not forget about Emory Jones. Drafted in the 3rd round despite having a known shoulder issue, he's just now starting to return to practice. So the Ravens burned a valuable pick on a player who couldn't contribute right away when they clearly had immediate needs. Was he the best player available? Maybe. But was he the right pick for a win-now team with holes on the offensive line? Probably not. Again, it's not about blaming the player. It's about the process. What went into that decision? Was there a real medical evaluation? Were there other healthier options on the board? Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support keeps us bringing you the latest news on the Baltimore Ravens. And hey, drop your take in the comments below. We want to hear from the flock. Baltimore might be facing a storm far greater than anything seen on the field. According to sources close to the Ravens' locker room, Lamar Jackson has issued what some are calling a flat-out ultimatum. The reigning MVP reportedly told team officials, "If he stays with the Ravens, I'm out." That one sentence, spoken, as insiders claim, behind closed doors, has set off a wave of speculation and unease throughout the organization and among fans. The "he" in question hasn't been officially identified, but whispers around the league suggest it could be a key member of the coaching staff or front office. Some point toward tension between Jackson and the offensive coordinator, citing creative differences and frustration over the team's play calling in critical moments. Others believe the friction may stem from internal politics, perhaps a personality clash that's been simmering since last season's playoff run. What makes this rumor explosive is its timing. The Ravens, riding high after a strong start, have championship ambitions. The last thing they need is their superstar quarterback drawing a line in the sand. Yet, those who know Jackson say this isn't out of character. He's known for his loyalty and emotion, and if he feels disrespected or unheard, he won't hesitate to make his stance clear. Ravens insiders are scrambling to contain the story, but social media has already caught fire. Fans are split. Some demand the organization fix whatever's wrong. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay in the loop with exclusive news on our Baltimore Ravens, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what the flock thinks. Drop your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one.